What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we have another Q&A with the Net Council here, as you can see. Today we're joined by Gold Wolf. We have the Nerd, and we have Alex. He's one of our newer members here, so make sure to go show all these guys some love. I'll leave links to all their channels down in the description below. Before we actually jump in, though, I do want to say this. We have a bunch of different questions, so if one question doesn't really catch your fancy, you don't really care about it, make sure to go and switch to another one. There'll be links in the description below and at the bottom of the screen. Now, with that said, are you guys ready to begin?
Let's do it.
Ready.
All
Yeah.
right. So for our first question, this one comes from Captain Phoenix. And he asked the question, do you think Obi-Wan and Vader will physically fight in the new Kenobi show? Or do you think it's just going to be like a force battles? Or do you think that they won't actually fight at all? What do you guys think? Let's start with Gold Wolf.
I think there's a good chance that they can fight. I don't know if it's going to be like a crazy epic trying to match episode 3 type of fight, but it's not like they have to fight. I mean, I think there's definitely going to be a face-to-face meeting between them, and there's going to be some emotion behind it. I think it could be a missed opportunity in some ways if they don't fight. I know some people look at A New Hope and say, you know, the whole last time we met, you were the master, now I'm the master. I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't meet again, because there's still a significant amount of time that passes from the events that happened in the Kenobi series to the events of A New Hope. So Vader could have still became the master through that gap of time, and not necessarily from 3 to the Kenobi series, if that makes sense. Or excuse me, from 3 to A New Hope. So I don't know, man. I feel like it's a 50-50. You know, I think they don't have to fight, but it'd be cool to see them fight.
Yeah. What do you think, Nerd?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Gold Wolf said. It would definitely be a missed opportunity if they didn't fight. I think it would be really cool to see. It isn't necessary, but I think it would be just cool.
Yeah, I definitely think they are marketing that. They're marketing the idea that that's going to happen. So if it doesn't happen, I could understand why people would be pretty disappointed by it, maybe even mad about it. So what about you, Alex? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think they'll fight.
Okay,
They have to. Yeah.
that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to. You know, like
Yeah,
I just think like, you know, anything like that, like, yeah.
Yeah, you can't bring back Vader and Obi-Wan and not have them at least do something. You know.
Yeah.
I initially was like,
Now-
they'll have like Vader and Obi-Wan like on two different ships, and they'll sense each other as they're going by each other, maybe, or something along those lines.
How
But,
far after? And what's the timeline? Like, how far after he becomes Darth Vader is this?
So this
series
this
happening?
show takes place. What would they say? Like 10 years after Revenge? Is that right? So it's still like 9 years before A New Hope. So there's still, you know, it's a whole decade between both movies. So I think that's what they said. I might be wrong about that, but that's still a good amount of time. You know what I mean? So
Because you know, like, at this point, I'm gonna say Anakin, but Vader, like, the only thing he wants to do is like kill Obi-Wan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost feel like he'd be like making it his like it's like when Frieza gets, you know, destroyed by Goku, and Frieza goes like right to Earth. Like Frieza's all mechanical, you know, and he's like directly to like the first thing he's like, "What do you want to do, Frieza?" And he's like, "I want to kill Goku." Like I feel like that's how Vader's probably like, "Let's go get Obi-Wan." Like so I feel like.
I don't know the whole situation. Vader knows Obi-Wan's still out there. So this is what I think. I think that Vader is going to think he killed Obi-Wan in the end. Right?
Oh, okay.
And that's what's going to throw everyone off of Obi-Wan's scent. So Vader is not going to go to Tatooine. He's not going to find out about any of that type of stuff, obviously. That's because if he found out about any of that stuff, he'd, you know, probably come and try to get Luke, obviously. So I think what they're probably going to do is Obi-Wan and Vader are going to fight, and Vader is going to obviously win this time. And if you think about it, they're probably going to somehow turn it to, like, if you remember when in A New Hope, when Obi-Wan and Vader talk, Vader's like, when I left you, I was but a learner, but now I'm the master. And so it makes me think, like, when he left him, maybe they're going to change that, like, maybe Vader leaves Obi-Wan for dead, and, like, he not that, like, he didn't kill Obi-Wan, but like he's gonna think that like Obi-Wan died. Like maybe he'll throw Obi-Wan underneath a trash compactor and be like, oh, and he'll see the compactor close and be like, oh, he's dead, and he'll be like, and walk off. So it's probably gonna be something along those lines. Obviously not that, but I mean maybe we'll see. So I would be okay with that. I definitely think there's going to be something along those lines, But any extra information to throw to this? Anyone wants to give their extra 2 cents to it at all?
I was just gonna say real quick, like when you're watching Rogue One, having Vader there and seeing Vader in today's new cinematic technology and all that was so amazing. To see Vader just in like his most deadly form was sick, dude. And I know we only got to see a bit of him, but it was still pretty cool. It seems like going off of the trailers that we have watched so far that it's not gonna be too much of Vader, but maybe that's how they're trying to make it look. I do hope that we do see Vader in a prime form in his suit, the way we seen him in Rogue One, but in a lightsaber battle, kind of like that remake of A New Hope's battle. That what's that called, Net? That one that you have on the internet where it's like rethought of a remastered, and it was like they were doing more tricks. And I want to see an aggressive Vader just walking him down in rage, swinging at him. That would be cool. So just to add that.
Yeah. What about you, Nerd? What were you going to say?
So I was going to say, in my opinion, if I was in charge of this whole Kenobi show, I would have made it so instead of Darth Vader being the main antagonist that we know, I would have made it be Darth Maul, because I feel like having Darth Vader and Obi-Wan like meet after Revenge of the Sith, and I just feel like it kind of messes with the time, like with everything with the New Hope and everything like that, because it seemed like in A New Hope that the last time they had met was on Mustafar. So that's the way George Lucas intended it. So making them meet again just kind of messes with things a little bit, in my opinion. And also, I feel like Darth Maul, it wouldn't really wreck anything to have him come back and kind of like have Obi-Wan kind of like take him out like once and for all, because he isn't in like the originals or anything. And he was teased at the end of Solo, so that would be like a good way to like incorporate him back into the universe. But that's just my opinion, but I feel like that would have been probably, in my opinion, the best route to go.
Yeah. I definitely think in some shape or form, ultimately, I just hope it's done right. I hope it's done right.
Yeah.
I hope it pays respect to the previous way, and it does its own thing, and it's solid. It feels right. It doesn't feel forced. It feels good. So hopefully they can pull that off. So far, it looks like they know what they're doing as far as their marketing goes, Then again, the sequel trilogy also had really good marketing, so I guess we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be hopeful though. Hopefully optimistic, but you never know. Okay, for our next one, we have from Ryan Dyer 2, and he asked the question: what is your ranking of the standard Phase 1 clone, Phase 2 clone, Imperial Stormtrooper, and First Order Trooper? So if you guys don't know what that is. So there's like the Gen 1 clone, which was like the Episode 2 clone. There was the Gen 2 clone, which is the Episode 3 clone. There's the Stormtroopers, which is effectively, Episode 2 or Episode 3 but more clunky. And then there is the First Order, which of course is the First Order Troopers. As far as a ranking goes, I'll just tell you which one my favorite is. I think I like mostly the Phase 2. I think the Phase 2 ones are the best, just because they're sleek and they have a cool color to them. So that's my personal opinion. What about you guys? What do you think is your favorite clone? Let's start with Goldwolf.
I think it was pretty cool. I think probably the Phase 2s are the coolest. I mean, it was awesome too, though, in Episode 2 when they come rolling in and they're doing that. Obviously, in what, like Star Wars lore, the Phase 2s are obviously an upgrade, so they would probably be better. But I think both of the styles are cool. But I do remember watching Episode 3 and I'm like, oh man, that's so cool to see them evolve from the clones, Phase 1s. And they're like halfway a Stormtrooper as far as their armor goes, with the colors, of course. And then when they became Stormtroopers, they all look the same, more plain. Obviously the retro style, and they didn't really know how to aim their blasters very good. And then the first Order, as much as how I feel about Disney, but the First Order troops look pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't really thought about that too much. That's a pretty interesting question.
What about you, the nerd? What would you say?
I'd probably have to go with the Stormtroopers. They're just probably the most nostalgic and iconic for me. Yeah, that's pretty much my answer.
Okay, cool. What about you, Alex? What would you say?
Yeah, Stormtroopers are cool. I don't really have
that's
too
fair.
much of a preference either. It's a good question. I've never thought about it before.
They're all relatively similar, so you're not wrong.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer here. It's just, Okay, there you go. There's your answer. All right, next question. This one is from Robert Burns, and he asked the question: who do you think would win in a duel, Palpatine and Maul versus Yoda and Mace Windu. So I actually answered this one for my question of the day, so I'm just going to jump in real quick here. I think it's going to be Yoda and Mace. The reason for this is if you think about it, if it's a 2-on-2, right? One person is going to grab the other person, right? So we have like Yoda's going to obviously go for Palpatine, and then we would have Mace who would go with Maul. While Palpatine and Yoda, they can go either way. I honestly think that Mace would be able to beat Maul, right? So if Maul then gets beat by Mace, Mace is then going to go help Yoda take out Palp, right? So I think, and then Mace and Yoda could definitely take out Palpatine by themselves, in my opinion. So that's my answer. I'm going to guess everyone's probably going to agree with me here, unless you guys have anything else. Any rebuttals?
I think my knee-jerk reaction wants to say that the Sith are going to win that, but yeah, when you break it down like that, I know the whole Palpatine let Mace win theory, whatever. We don't know that for sure. It seems to be that way, but if you look at it that way too, Mace already did one-on-one the guy you would think would be on Yoda's level too. So yeah, when you break it down, I can't really disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's your answer, Robert. Okay, next one. This one's from Asher Eberhardt, and his question is what if the Jedi Council survived Order 66 still in the works? How far is the process? Okay, so this is just mostly a question for me, obviously. Yes, it is in the works, but I'm only releasing it at 70K subscribers. So make sure to share. All right, make sure to get those people to subscribe, and then your next edition will be out.
What are you at now?
64. So they got a little bit to go, but if they want it, got to put in the work. That's the way I see it, right?
Will it be the best episode?
It will be the best. Let's just say there will be twists, and you're going to be excited. So let's move on to the next one. This one is from Nanimator, and he asked the question: who do you think is a better villain, Thanos from the MCU or Darth Vader from Star Wars?
Darth Vader. That's my answer. I'm done. Okay.
Darth Vader? The nerd Vader? What do you say, Alex?
Yeah, I want to say Vader. Okay, yeah, so I think Vader's like more original because Thanos is based off of like a Greek mythological character, you know?
Okay.
So I feel like, to some degree, I guess, right? It's like based off of Titan, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, so, I mean, that's not even like necessarily like an original idea to some degree. You know what I mean? Like it is, but it's taken from other lore.
That argument.
Versus Vader is like a very original, like even the name Darth Vader is like, you know, it's isn't that like a German pun? But it's like a German pun, like
it's Dark
like
Father.
Dark Father. Like it's a weird mix, like it's its own language, and like the whole thing, like it's very from like his own mind.
Yeah.
So I think just that in its own sense is way cooler, I think, than like just
for
pulling
me,
some guy from Greek mythology.
Yeah. No, that's cool. For me, being a massive, probably the biggest MCU fan here out of the chat currently, Thanos is a really good bad guy. I think mostly because you can understand where he's coming from with his motivations, even if they're wrong. And I think that's one of the best things a villain can have. The idea that, you know, if you can understand where the villain's coming from, even when they're the bad guy, and you can almost be on their side until you look at what they're doing, and then you're like, no, you can't. I'm not on your side with that. But that's something that if a villain can do that, that's a really good villain. However, if we're talking about like one of the most iconic cinematic villains ever, it's Darth Vader. You know, Darth Vader is he is the better villain overall. But I do respect Thanos for what he is and what he represents and what he did with his storyline. So there you go. There's our answer. I guess we all pretty much picked Darth Vader. So
plus, Darth Vader is just so much more fleshed out. Like we get to see him as a child, as a teenager, as an adult, and then we get to see his like children and all that. So I feel like we can kind of like get closer to him and kind of sympathize it with him a little more. But
yeah, with Vader, and that's another thing too. With Vader, you have experienced him on the good side. You have experienced him on the dark side. You see that whole transition, and Vader is the better villain overall. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Okay, for our next one, this is from N7. He asked the question, have you ever walked out of a movie? And if so, why? Now let's say this. Have you ever walked out of a movie or like just had to turn a movie off because it was so bad?
Yes.
Let's say that. So let's start with you, Goldwolf. Let's hear it.
There was another one, but I'm forgetting. But I do remember Texas Chainsaw 3D. Okay, so I'm a big fan of. I'm not a big horror movie guy. Like I don't mind being scared. You know. Okay, fine. I'm a wimp. No. Okay, so horror movies oftentimes I feel like are just generic, stupid written. Like there's always that one girl who's like, guys, I heard something in the woods. I'm gonna go check it out by myself. No one come with me. So it's like, but every now and then you get a great horror movie. So like I was always a big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, like even the original ones. And then the remakes, and oftentimes you have a hit original series, and then you get your remakes, and they just ruin it, right? Well, I thought the remakes for Texas Chainsaw were awesome, like the beginning one, and then the first new one that came out, and it was just dark and eerie and gory, and of course there was a bit of stupidity because it's horror movies, right? They have to set themselves up to get butchered, but overall, I thought they were pretty solid movies. And then Texas Chainsaw 3D came out. And then I remember it just being terrible. Like, and I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I've already paid my money. I'm already this far into it. So to be fair, I walked out closer to the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet. The main character, the woman, finds out through her journey that she's related to Leatherface. He's like her cousin or something. And then just because, even though Leatherface slaughtered all her friends and was about to slaughter her, she goes, "Oh, look, I just found out we're related." And then he's like, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." He didn't really, he don't talk, but he's like in body language. And then there's some
sounds
other.
Awful.
I know. And then there's some other stuff that happens. And then she goes,
"Oh man."
She goes, she sends him to execute it, and she has this cringy line. She's like, "Get him, cuz." And I'm like,
"Oh boy."
I got up and I'm like, "I'm done." I walked out.
Sorry, I walked
out. It was so terrible. I was like, dude. It made Disney Star Wars look good. It was bad.
That's saying a lot.
All right, Nerd, what would you say? Have you had an experience like that yet?
I think when I was like 10, we walked out of some Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, but
Understandable.
I don't remember why. Didn't you rank those movies?
I did rank them, yeah. Actually, one of my I mean that's years ago I ranked them, but and that's because I had a guy commenting every single day for like a year straight. I'm like, fine, I'll make them. So that's why I made that. I sat down one week and I watched them all. It was awful.
What, you watched them all in a week?
In like one day.
You didn't have the voices in your head.
Wow.
Oh man.
Well, I do it for the fans.
Talk about dedication.
That's what it's about. But Chipmunks movies. One of my admins on the Discord, he's been wanting me to do that. So maybe I'll have to redo my list. Like I said, I did it for like 3 or 4 years ago. So maybe I'll have to update it with a tier list soon. But if you guys want to see that, let us know in the comments below. Here's something that's relevant to Star Wars. There was a time, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, when I rewatched all the Star Wars movies, and I watched The Phantom Menace, and then I got like halfway through Attack of the Clones, and I had to turn it off. And it was just because of how cringy the dialogue with Anakin gets near the middle of that movie.
Really?
Now,
I thought it was bad.
Well, at the time, I did. Eventually, when I rewatched it again, I came into it with the knowledge of, this broken young man who has been manipulated his entire life on both sides of the spectrum, who had to be, who lost his mother, but also like, here's this girl, like the first like good-looking girl he's ever known, and then she's gone, and then he becomes a teenager, blah blah blah, and then one day he just like, bam, he's with her again, and he's like, he has like he's by himself with her this whole time, and it's like I can understand that, this guy hasn't had to deal with this, and now he's like with like the girl of his dreams, and he's not allowed to do anything. I can understand that why he's going crazy, and I'm okay with that now. So I do remember that's the one time I turned it off. As far as walking out of a movie in a theater, I never walked out of a movie. There's been times where I'm like watching a movie, I'm like, this is kind of boring. I'd leave, but whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't think I've ever walked out of a movie. I wanted to walk out of a movie. I'll tell you what. Grown Ups 2. Grown Ups 2 is probably the only movie that I wanted to walk out of, but I didn't. And the reason for that is because I liked Grown Ups 1 so much. And when I wanted the second one, I'm like, let's do this. You know what I mean? We drove. It was like pouring in our city at the time. It was pouring. All the streets were flooded except for one. And I was like, I'm going to see this movie. I'm so excited. Let's do this. And we like hydroplaned. We almost skidded off the road at one point. You know, I almost died to go see this movie. So I was excited. And it was very bad. Watching it again, though, I actually watched it like 6 months ago. I think it's fine now. But at the time, I was very disappointed. So I guess that's what I could say as far as that goes. What about you, Alex? Have you ever walked out of a movie or just
did once?
Had to turn it off?
I walked out of Bruno.
Oh, Bruno, really?
Yeah.
Oh no, that movie's great.
I know. I just wasn't. I was there with a friend, and it was just way more than we were in the movie. We were like, were tossing it. The Hangover had just come out too, so we were like tossing up Bruno or The Hangover. So we're like, all right, and they started at like the exact same time. So we're like, all right, let's see how much we can tolerate with Bruno.
You picked the wrong one.
I forget what it was, but it got to a point where we're like, we probably have more fun at The Hangover. So then we just
was it the part where his penis was talking? Like...
That might have been it. That might have been it. And just
that is the weirdest scene.
And like I've watched it since then, and I thought it was funny, but at the time, like I think I was like 16, and I was just like, just not feeling it.
That's a very like over the top movie sometimes. So,
it was yeah.
That's fair. Any extra funny stories anyone wants to throw into this as far as or talk about it in movies or?
No,
whatever?
but I did walk out of the Avatar movie too. Not Avatar. Not Avatar. No. That movie's great. The last Airbender
okay, I got
movie.
you.
Movie. That was terrible. Anyway.
Wow, you know what? I have seen that one time. And I didn't go to the theaters for it though, but I would be pretty disappointed if I went to the theaters for that one.
I was gonna say, have you seen Little Women or whatever the newest like Little Women movie that came out like 2 years ago? Probably not. My mom made me go see it, and I almost had to walk out because, spoiler alert, the whole movie they're talking about the general and father who's going to show up. There's these 5 girls, and one gets sick, and they just keep saying father, father, father. Like when father shows up, everything's going to be fine. Whole movie goes by. Guess who's the father that shows up at the end? It's Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad, Bob Odenkirk. And I was like, of all the people they got, and he was the same guy, like he was the same character. And I had just watched Breaking Bad, and I was laughing so hard, and it was like a really sentimental, like nice scene, and I just cackled laughing. I was the only one laughing. I was the only guy in the theater. I was the only one laughing my ass off. And I was like, shut up, this is a beautiful scene. They're waiting for the father to show up, and he finally shows up, and I was like, it's Saul Goodman though, like it's all the people. I thought it was so funny, so I almost walked out there just to save my embarrassment. And I was why they get Saul Goodman? Like,
yeah, you're always Saul Goodman. Once you're Saul Goodman, you are nothing else.
Yeah. There are some interesting castings sometimes. Like I always thought like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor in the Batman and Superman movies was kind of an odd casting.
Yeah.
I guess I respect it now, but at the time I remember being like, why didn't? Because there were rumors it was going to be Bryan Cranston.
That would have been so much better.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking forward to. You know what I mean? And that's the main character of Breaking Bad, by the way, for those who might not know. But and I was like, he'd be great for Lex Luthor.
Great.
But okay, so with that said, let's move on to our next question. So this question is from Waterbender24, and like I mentioned, he's one of the admins from my my Discord, and his question is, when am I doing an updated Chipmunks films tier list?
Whoa.
Wait, was that planned?
We just talked about. No, I didn't plan that. No,
Crazy.
I just saw it. I actually didn't plan it for this. I'm scrolling through the questions. I just saw it right now. I'm like, okay, let's say it. So
no way.
It's coming.
So funny.
It's in the works. There you go, Waterbender.
I'm gonna answer this question. I'm gonna answer this question. He will have it out in 3 days. There you go, Nick.
3 days. Okay,
Yes.
I'll try my best to make it in 3 days. We'll see. I haven't watched those in years, so I'll try.
A marathon.
Another one. No, I almost died doing the last one, so I don't know if I want to do it again. Okay. So next one. This one is from Ghostly Nolan, and he asked the question: Anakin Skywalker Luke Skywalker, who is your favorite? Let's hear you, the nerd. What do you got to say?
Well, I've said this before. Anakin Skywalker is probably my favorite character in all of Star Wars. Like I've said earlier in this video, he's just so fleshed out. We get to see him as a child, teenager, or Darth Vader, all of that. And he ends up getting redemption in the end after being evil. So, yeah, it's got to be Darth Vader, the main character. I know it's a very generic pick, but yeah.
You only choose two
I
different
know.
picks. You know what I mean? So technically, they're both the most generic picks, so that's
Yeah.
fine. You know what I mean? Alex, what would you say?
Oof, that is a very good question. Just for nostalgia purposes, I feel like Luke. I like Luke more. It's just
It's
I
understandable.
don't know. Just whenever I think of Star Wars, I automatically think of Luke Skywalker. But
That's fair.
he was
Well,
a
here's a question.
little.
Here's a question
Yeah.
for you. I know that you just recently watched the sequel trilogy, right? Did
Mhm.
you watch those then?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on Luke and those movies?
Oh.
We pretend that didn't
Yeah.
happen.
How would you say?
It's not the Luke I knew, I guess.
That's fair.
Not like the heroic. Well, I guess he's still heroic, but it's not like the. I don't know. He was cool and aloof in the. I'll just
the
call them the
originals.
original ones.
Yeah.
And then seeing him kind of geriatric and, older.
Yeah, not the
it's
same
a different
character. He's
vibe. It's still
different
cool. It's still
character.
old and jaded and.
Okay.
But that doesn't really change, I guess, my overall opinion on him versus,
That's fine. I mean, in a way, Luke in the original trilogy is different from the sequel trilogy. Like they're effectively two different characters, even though they're both the same Luke. So, yeah. Golwolf, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean it is cool. It's a good question. First and foremost, I like to pretend Disney never happened with Luke because they totally butchered his character. So let's just put that aside. Luke's he's like the guy that I've always strived to be, break the cycle. You come from a family of people who have done. I mean, we don't really know, but we know Vader is even if I know Vader didn't have a dad, I guess technically, right? Whatever, but you're breaking the cycle. You're the one that gets tempted by all the bad stuff and the bad stain in your name, and you turn things around. So that's pretty cool. We didn't get to see too much more of Luke, especially if we're pretending Disney never happened, and I do. But we have seen Clone Wars. I'm currently halfway through Clone Wars right now. You get to see a ton of Anakin. I mean, it's just so cool to see somebody who walks a tightrope between good and bad. That's always interesting because a lot of times when Anakin does the quote unquote wrong thing, goes against the Jedi Order, you understand why he does it. You know, so it's hard to say. But if I had to pick, probably Anakin. Just because you see more about him, you know more about him. There's more movies about him. Luke was born later down the road. And of course, I'll say it again. I pretend that I would like them to just redo the sequel. So I'm not. I'm gonna pretend that's not Luke. Hopefully, we've seen some more Luke in Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian. I want to see more of cool Luke. Before they went and made him a whiny, nihilist. So, I don't know. Probably Anakin.
Yeah, I'd say Anakin too. Love Luke, but Anakin is my protagonist, I guess you could say, from my time.
We grew up with him.
Yeah, and that's fair too. People before us, they'd probably say Luke. For me, it's Anakin. So he's my protagonist, and kids after us, they probably grew up and they'll probably say Rey is their protagonist. You know what I mean? So
That's a sad thought.
I mean, that's the way it is, So yeah. Now, with that said, since you mentioned about the sequels there, and I know you're a big fan of them, Goldwolf.
Huge fan.
Here's a question. All right, this one is from AJ the Jedi. I didn't know if we were going to include this, but let's just do it. Do you think the Star Wars sequels should be removed from canon and replaced by another 3 films? Or do you think they should stay canon?